something that was 60. Oh, the new Bosch series. About something. Started watching that. Meditations for
I wonder as I wander out under the sky, how Jesus the Savior did come for to die, for poor ordinary people like you and like I wonder as I wander out under the sky. When Mary birthed Jesus, 'twas in a cow stall, with wise men and farmers and shepherds and all. But high from God's heaven a star's light did fall, and the promise of ages it then did recall. If Jesus had wanted for anything, a star in the sky, or a bird on the wing, or all of God's angels in heaven for to sing, he surely could have it, 'cause he was the King. I wonder as I wander out under the sky, how Jesus the Savior did come for to die, for poor ordinary people like you and like I wonder as I wander out under the sky.
Good morning. Good morning to all of you. Welcome, welcome, welcome on this lovely, lovely day out there. At least it's not windy, right? Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Buffalo. It is good to have you here, warming up the space, making it as toasty as a little hot chocolate with a big fat marshmallow in it. Good to have you here. My name is Joan Montagnes, and I have the honor and the privilege of serving you, this congregation, as minister. We are blessed. We are blessed to be here. And we acknowledge that the land upon which we meet rests upon the traditional territories of the Haudenosaunee people, original nations of this land who continue to call for justice and self-determination. I want to explain about all of these prezzies up at the front. This is an incredible outpouring of generosity from our congregation. We support Family Promise, Buffalo's truly excellent transitional housing shelter for whole families. And these gifts are going to be pretty much all of Christmas for two families. And they include not just toys and gifts and nice things, but also household items that they have requested just so that they can have a life in their new homes. So this is what our congregation does. People responded with remarkable generosity there. I also want to announce that the grief group will be meeting today in the Marge Gardner room, which is pretty much the hidden room in our church. So if you can't find it and you'd like to, just let me know. Or somebody else, just ask somebody who looks like they belong here, and they will figure it out for you. the Marge Gardner room. They'll have in the grief group right after the service, I think. And Bonnie Collins is here somewhere. There she is. You'll need to be a little bit more visible. I could barely see you. Can you raise your body? There you are. Yay, Bonnie. And she'll be facilitating that, so contact her for further information. Also a good person to figure out where this mysterious Marge Gardner room is. And a quick announcement. You may know that Christmas is coming. And Christmas Eve, we have traditionally two services. First at 7 o'clock, which is a family-friendly, lots of carols, stories, music. It's a good deal of fun. That's the 7 p.m. And then at 11 p.m., we have a much more traditional service that the choir takes and runs with, and it is glorious. So that's 2 Christmas Eve services, and this year we have an added bonus. Because Christmas Day is a Sunday, which means, yes, we're having church, which means you're all welcome here to come and have a little light, fun family worship here. And then, because that's not enough fun, we're going to have a potluck brunch afterwards. So come with a dish to share or not. There's always enough for everyone. It will be great to see you. And if not, I know you're at home having that cocoa that we earlier spoke of. So I think that is all the announcements. The rest of the announcements, new members classes, just so as you know, if you're interested in becoming a member or just interested in getting to know folks who are interested in becoming members. New members class starts on Tuesday and then the following Tuesday, and you can talk to me about that if you're interested. And there's more information in your order of service, along with all these other announcements that just tell you all kinds of fabulous things that are going on right here in this church, which is happening right now. But there's no need to read them right now. Take them home, put them on your fridge, find out what you want to do on any given day. So welcome, it's good to be together. That is enough announcing. Wouldn't we all agree? We're done with that? So let's take a deep breath together. Get centered here, and then do that thing we do to remind ourselves that the community is being built and growing and thriving here. Take some time now to greet your neighbor. So weird.
How long used to stay there? So, an 8th grade?
A little while. A minute. I'm looking for my order of service, which went AWOL, but that's okay. I'll use that. Oh, do you? I'll take it.
I still remember when they could fit in one arm, and it's very small. I mean, I'll just leave that there.
Yeah. I'm going to go say hello to somebody, and then it'll be time.
The sources of information that are sometimes described a higher level before.
Oh, now we have the right number. I'm sorry.
I have to say,
You're all set?
Middle school was such a challenging time. I was not totally sad that my oldest time in middle school was a bit shrunk as a result of COVID. I'll be honest, I was kind of like, well, maybe this is such a hard year. But he weathered it really quite well. I mean, he did, of course, especially at age group, your friends are so important. He missed the socialization, so I was really excited to get back to school. But he's a pretty social kid, and even prior to that, so I think he missed a social side. So yeah, they're doing well. Thank you for that.
Good morning. I'm Eve Holberg, and I am your worship associate this morning. We are called to worship this morning with the words by the Reverend Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, May our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May the light of our chalice remind us that this is a community of warmth, of wisdom, and welcoming of multiple truths. Come, let us worship. And now please rise as you are willing and able and join us in our chalice lighting recitation. We gather in loving community, inspiring one another to transform ourselves to create a more just and compassionate world.
Transformer is. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a bus stop. And the bus stop was beside a tree, a big old tree, kind of like that one. And then the tree was beside a big old empty house. And inside the empty house, there was a grouchy granny. And she was grouchy because okay. We're going to try this. Monty going on here. Okay, should be on. Okay, it is. Okay, so, yeah, the kids can come up, whatever. Yeah, of course. Always. Kids want to come up? Yeah, I'll come up. So we got the grouchy granny, and she's grouchy because she is all alone, and she is sad, and she is bored. And the more sad and alone and bored she gets, the more grouchy she gets. So it's this big positive feedback loop, and it's just a bad scene all around. Grouchy Granny sits in her house every day on her old rocking chair, and she rocks back and forth and looks out the big window at the people. And in the mornings by the bus stop, there are all these kids. And when it snows, they're throwing snowballs and making snow forts and snow angels, and they're having a great old time out there and laughing and playing and having fun. And grouchy Granny is sitting there in her rocking chair saying, "Humph, why are these kids having so much fun? Rotten kids." Well, one day, Grouchy Granny's looking at all the kids out there by the bus stop, and she notices this one kid. And the one kid isn't looking at anyone else. He's just standing by himself. He's not smiling. He's not playing in the snow. He's just sitting there. And she realizes he is very, very cold. And when he gets on the school bus, he reaches for the rail and he takes his hands out of his pockets, and she says, "He hasn't even got any mittens. What kind of kid doesn't get mittens on a day like this? Doesn't have the sense of a sack of hammers." And with that, she stomps off into the kitchen to make herself a cup of tea. But as she puts the kettle on the stove, and as she makes this cup of tea, she can't get that kid out of her head. She can't get this cold kid out of her mind. And when she sits down on a rocker again and starts drinking her tea, she just stops and says, "All right then, there's nothing for it," and slams down her mug, stomps up the stairs to a room where nobody really goes anymore, and she rummages around a bit, rummage, and she finds a basket of yarn. And she takes that basket of yarn with some knitting needles and begins to knit. Well, she knits, and as the yarn loops around the needles, a pair of warm woolen mittens begin to take shape. Well, by mid-afternoon, those mittens are done. And Grouchy Granny takes the mittens and she opens the door of her house, and she looks both ways to make sure nobody is watching, and she races out to the tree, and she hangs the mittens on the tree, and then she races back inside. But what she does next is put her face against the window, and she is very surprised to see that she is waiting for the school bus with a silly grin all across her face. The school bus arrives, and these kids come out of the school bus, and they're coming out in twos and threes and heading in their different directions. And at the very end, this one kid, that one cold kid, comes out of the door of the school bus, and he sees the mittens on the tree. He looks at him, this warm, woolly gift, and he looks up the street, and he looks down the street. They don't seem to belong to anyone. So he puts them on his hand. The warmth is magical, all the way from his fingertips down into his heart and down into his toes. He smiles this great warm smile, and it's so warm. It travels all the way through the window to Grouchy Granny, and she feels the heat in her heart. Well, Grouchy Granny spends the next night knitting, and she knits all that week, and all that week the kids find these warm woolly gifts of all different colors and beautifulnesses on the tree. Do you think maybe now's a good time that we should decorate our tree to make it look like the mitten tree in the story? Okay, does anybody have any mittens to put on? Go get them. Go get them. And there are a few here too if you don't have any. And I think that there's some behind the tree if you really don't have any. So you can dig behind the tree. There's a bag or two back there. Wow. All week long, the kids got these beautiful mitts and hats and scarves and socks and gloves, and every kid in the neighborhood was covered in these beautiful, new, warm, woolly, magically fabulous, warm woolen things. And one night, Granny sat down. You know, she wasn't grouchy anymore because she wasn't so sad. She certainly wasn't bored, and she knew she was not alone. So Granny sat down and she looked into her basket, all ready to knit again. And the basket was empty. There was no more yarn. She had knit up every scrap and given it away. So next time the kids came to look at the mitten tree, it was bare. Terrible situation. So they whispered among themselves, and Granny felt so sad she thought she was going to droop. The next morning, the kids all came and they looked at the tree, still bare. And then they crowded around the tree and then filed onto the bus. And when they left, Granny noticed that under the tree was a whole basket of the most beautiful yarn you can imagine, and a big thank you note signed by all the children to whoever the magical mystery maker of magical, wonderful warmth in the wintertime. Thank you all for participating. Special thanks to Sally Metzger, who always knits like dozens of mittens all year long. One thing, by the way, all these mittens are going to go to Journeys, New Buffalonians from Journeys and Refugee Services.
Thank you, everyone, for your generosity. And now, children can head off to their classrooms to continue their religious exploration. Every week, we take a good portion of our Sunday offering and give it away to a social justice cause outside our four walls. This month, we are supporting the good work of Stitch Buffalo. Stitch Buffalo is a textile art center committed to empowering refugee and immigrant women through the sale of their handcrafted goods, inspiring creativity and inclusion through community education, and stewarding the environment through the reuse of textile supplies. To support our Share the Plate ministry, you can drop a check or cash in the offering plate. You can use PayPal by going to our website, and you can send a check to the church through the mail or arrange for regular automatic deposit with your bank. If yours is a gift to our Share the Plate ministry, please write SHARE on the memo line, and it will be shared between Stitch Buffalo and the church operating budget. If yours is a welcome gift to our congregation, please write Pledge 2022 on the memo line. Either way, please write UUCB on the important line. Thank you for your wonderful generosity.
Watermelon
I've always wondered what it might be like to be a starfish, with hundreds of feet tasting, touching, feeling, exploring, all at once, all directions. I've always wondered what a light year means in terms of time. I mean, who can think that far, that fast, that way, that cosmically? I've always wondered where a thought resides and how it travels from you to me, and why it sticks or not. Is it really like spaghetti being thrown at a wall? And why are there mathematical constants? Will someone explain that? No, don't explain it to me. But really, mathematical constants like pi and that Pythagoras triangle thingy. And why does calculus even work? Why, when I flip on the switch, do the lights go on? I mean, I know the theory, right? But a zillion tiny electrons racing along a copper wire? Come on. Yeah. I've always wondered how survival at the margins is possible. In the cold, in abuse, in loss, in betrayal, incarceration. In a society of mass shooting, war, abandonment. How is survival even possible? And I regularly wonder, I promise you, I regularly wonder, what is wrong with people? What is wrong with people? I am struck with a 2x4 of astonishment every time I turn on the news. In fact, I mean, I don't know about you, but sometimes I find it much easier to just stop wondering, to shut down. Much easier than to open ourselves to unanswered, perhaps unanswerable questions. Easier to stop wondering, to go through the motions of duty and necessity mechanically, passionless, hopeless. It's easier to shut the doors, to stay inside, to grouch about how no one out there in the world has the sense of a sack of hammers. And wonder's demanding, isn't it? Wonder is demanding. Wonder asks us to get up out of bed, get up off that creaky old rocking chair, go, explore, feel disappointed, confused, delighted, enraged. Wonder asks us to experience, to be stimulated, to live fully and meaningfully, and to act. Dare to knit a pair of mittens. Hang them on a tree without knowing what will happen to your offering. Feel fully that blessing of generosity. But wouldn't it be easier just to curl up under the covers, hunker down into that tiny universe of home and Netflix, never venturing out, never diving into horizonless heart and mind, never opening ourselves to the abyss of curiosity, never offering ourselves to the abundance of wonderful gifts strewn on the path, rose petals on a temple walk. Even as I find myself closing off the world, rejecting its largesse, even if I feel myself wanting to close down to wonder. If I am not diligent at maintaining my armor of disinterest, I find myself helplessly wondering at stars and tangerines and that huge hawk silhouetted on skeleton tree this morning. I find myself helplessly wondering how my dear ones, against all laws of physics and chemistry, how my dear ones, how you warm my heart and soul and keep the blood flowing in my veins. The poet reminds us, if throughout these grace-given days of ours, surrounded as we are by green life and brown death, hot pink joy and cold gray pain and miracles, always miracles. If we stay inside ourselves and do not venture out, then the fullness of the universe shall be unknown to us, and our locked hearts shall never feel the rush of wonder, of life, of truth. This morning, Michael Hill, Doug Sherman, and Leslie Bolt will bear witness. They will bear witness to wonder. Bear witness to what happens when they open themselves in holy curiosity to the fullness of the universe. Bear witness to the gifts they have discovered, gifts which have rewarded them with a passion for life. The gift of love, the gift of service, and the gift of deeper understanding. Let's join in singing. Hymn number 389, Gathered Here.
This is a round, so we're going to try to do it as a round. So we need ones. Let's say it's sort of the far side of the room here, so the second half of this group of pews. You're going to be ones. Twos is going to be the inside half over there. And then maybe let's say threes will be this whole group of folks, and fours will be over there. So follow your respective soloists, and we'll do it once all together as just a melody together, and then we'll split off 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll do that 2 times. All right, let's give it a try. So starting everyone together with the melody.
Me.
Good morning. My name is Michael Hill, and I've always wondered how 400,000 plus children across the United States of America are in foster care on any given day, in any given month, in any given year. As a person that's worked in child welfare for the last 13 years, I find that number, 400,000, to be staggeringly awful. It makes me wonder about a lot of things. For example, what are the circumstances that played into the need for a child to enter into the system in the first place? What did the parent or parents of the child need in order to avoid the child being placed into the system in the first place? Did they need drug or alcohol abuse counseling? Did they need mental health supports? Did they need additional financial resources? Did they need parenting classes? As opposed to focusing on what many perceive to be their failure, maybe we need to acknowledge the ways in which our society might have failed them in advance of or during their attempt to successfully parent. I also wonder about the children that are placed into the child welfare system that will never be able to return to their biological parent or parents. What happens to them? Is a family member able to step up and take responsibility for caring for that child? If not, is there someone that the child knows, a neighbor, a friend, a teacher, a coach, someone that is able to step up and take responsibility for caring for that child? If neither of these things can happen, is there a family out there willing to adopt the child? And if a family can't be identified, is there a supportive, comprehensive, trauma-informed organization that can house and provide for that child? The dangers of youth aging out of the foster care system without any good resources or strong connections to caring adults are real. For example, I remember reading a case study about a young man who aged out of the foster care system at age 21 without any well-developed or legitimate supports. This was best characterized by a job application that he filled out after aging out of the system. On the job application, on the emergency contact line of the application, he didn't have a person's name to write in, so he simply wrote 911. That hit me like a ton of bricks. This young man literally had no one. I'm currently the executive director at HomeSpace, a local organization that services 14 to 21-year-old foster youth and their child or children. We provide housing and a host of other support services to instill the values of family, self-sufficiency, responsibility, security, and resiliency as we work to change lives 2 generations at a time. Our clients have experienced more trauma and more difficulty in their young lives than most of us will ever have to deal with in our lifetimes. I find myself deeply inspired by them as they strive to build a better life for themselves and their children. Last month was National Adoption Awareness Month, and there's a bit of a mantra that floats around in print or on social media during the month of November that I'd like to share with all of you. It stresses the importance of finding some way to share your gifts of love to play a positive role in the life of a vulnerable child. Adopt. If you can't adopt, foster. If you can't foster, provide respite care for a family and child. If you can't provide respite care, visit with youth. If you can't visit with youth, become a mentor. If you can't mentor, volunteer. If you can't volunteer, then donate. And if you can't donate, educate to raise awareness. Everyone can raise awareness. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Doug Sherman. I am currently the chair of the nominating committee. I've been a board member, board president. I've served on covenant groups as a facilitator, teaching a coming of age class, all these things that give service. Let me begin with this. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship. Thus do we covenant. We all come here bearing gifts. Some of us use our hands to craft paper snowflakes or origami cranes. Some of us use our voices to sing with the choir. We do a lot. We build beds for those without. We pack gift bags for those incarcerated. We gather bedding for those in need. We give toys to the Children and Family Promise. We give cash to groups outside our church walls every month. We pack a house with furniture for people seeking a new life. But I have always wondered if we could do more. How do we get a couple hundred people with a couple hundred different credos to become a bigger force for change, a bigger force for justice? I think we do that by sharing our passions, our skills, our knowledge, and our experience, not just here, but outside these walls. We need you to keep this community going. We have committees and ministry teams that need your help, your skills, your passions. This may sound a lot like a pitch for volunteers, and maybe it is, but I hope it's more than that. I hope that thinking about the gifts you have and the ways you can share them will open all of you to the wonders of giving. We give mittens, socks, hats, and as we adorn the tree. But our biggest gift, the one that holds the most wonder, is the gift we bring with us when we give of ourselves and help each other become a force for change and a force for justice. 'Tis better to give than to receive. The gift is in the giving. Service is its own reward and our prayer. Blessed be.
Good morning. My name is Leslie Bolt, and I have always wondered about the power of nonverbal communication between humans and in nature. What can be learned when language is silent? The eyes of an infant interrogate ours at the grocery checkout. What is being expressed in this gaze of intense curiosity? As we lock eyes, we encounter something that mesmerizes us, that stops time for an instant. Words are absent, but something elusive and intense passes between us. The language of eye contact can express tenderness or provoke hostility. We learn to become experts at sending and interpreting such visual messages. We also use the language of touch, considered the most intimate and sophisticated of our senses, as the best way to convey affection or comfort. Silence is another potent means of nonverbal communication, one that can lead to awe and wonder, particularly when we experience it in nature. It is said that silence is not the mere absence of speech, but a positive, complete world in itself. In it, we can hear the eloquence of night, the night of wet trees and moonlight. Years ago, while teaching at a university in Perpignan, France, I led a group of students up a steep 45-minute climb to a monastery perched on a cliff in the Pyrenees. Little prepared them for what they would see from the lonely promontory at the edge of a cliff. Nor were they prepared for the fact that they would have to observe strict silence once they crossed the threshold of the monastery. Yet, many admitted afterwards that it was the gift of silence that truly opened them to the expansive vista they were witnessing. The silence spoke, was eloquent through its very wordlessness. The forest is a preeminent place of wonder, silence, and nonverbal communication. As someone who feels a deep kinship for the trees of Muskoka, Ontario, and who felt a sort of epiphany of gratitude before the tallest of all living things, the majestic coastal redwoods of Muir Woods near San Francisco. I am drawn to recent studies suggesting that trees send a message of distress to one another and support one another in kinship through underground roots and fungal networks. The benefits of forest bathing may stem from this communication between trees, as well as from the shower of essential oils they release into the air. But forest bathing provides much more than an immunity boost from these essential oils, for the trees reconnect us with the senses of hearing, smell, and touch, all of which are often considered subordinate to the sense of sight. Forest bathing also reawakens our capacity to engage in nonverbal communication with birds and with trees, which communicate with one another in ways we are only now learning to fully appreciate. And it is when verbal language is silenced that we are opened most intensely to the gift of this magnificent, eloquent communication. The poet Mary Oliver writes,
Truly, we live with mysteries too marvelous to be understood. How grass can be nourishing in the mouths of the lambs. How rivers and stones are forever in allegiance with gravity, while we ourselves dream of rising. How two hands touch, and the bonds will never be broken. Come, let us join our hearts and minds in a quiet moment of prayer and meditation and reflection. May we constantly live in wonder. May we open ourselves to mysteries too marvelous to be understood. Fall helplessly into curiosity. Rejoice in the gifts of this world and discover that each gift is a blessing. And now let us open our sanctuary of memory, caring, accountability, and hope to the names of all our loved ones suffering in sorrow and celebrating in joy, each name a breath, and each breath a prayer. The breath of nature is upon us. The spirit of life is within us. The community of love is among us. So be it, blessed be. And let the church say, Amen. Let's join in singing hymn number 16, "'Tis a Gift to be Simple," and let's sing it twice. Please remain standing as you are willing and able, and join us in the words that we recite as we extinguish our chalice. As we extinguish the flame of this chalice, may we carry its light with us into the world in the power of peace, faith, justice, and love. Truly, we live in a world too mysterious, too marvelous to understand. Let us be wary of those who think they have all the answers. Let us avoid believing that we have all the answers. Rather, may we live widely and love madly and keep company with those who say, "Look," and laugh in astonishment and hold wonder as holy. Remember, you are blessed. Remember, you are a blessing. And above all else, remember, you are not alone. You are never alone. So be it, blessed be, and let the church say, Amen.